Hello friends, welcome to Nigira Techies. This video we can talk about Entity Framework Core in .NET 7. So we can start from what is Entity Framework Core. So Entity Framework Core is an object relational mapping. It is provided by Microsoft. So the latest version is 7.0. The latest version can support the .NET 6.0 and 7.0. And also we can work with different types of databases. It includes SQL databases, MySQL and Azure. So the Entity Framework Core provides three approaches to create our entity model. The first one is database first, and the second one is code first, and the final one is model first. So all the approaches having some pros and cons. So based on our requirement, we can select our approaches. So most probably people are choosing this database first approach and also this code first approach. So if you have the created database already, we can go with an database first approach. At the same way, if you have the created data model classes in our application, then we can go with our code first approaches. For this video, I'm going to explain this database first approach and also this code first approach with some proper coding examples. Now let me go to my created application. So this is one of the .NET Core BB application. So the first thing is we have to install the required packages for our Entity Framework Core. So here I mentioned these four packages that we supposed to install in our application. The first one is Entity Framework Core, then Design, SqlServer, and the final one is Tools. So we can install everything one by one. Just right click, Manage NuGet Packages. So in this Browse section, you have to type like a Entity Framework. So we can install everything one by one. Choose the latest version 7.0. So next I'm going to install this design and then this SQL server and the final one is tools. Okay, our installation gets completed. So as I mentioned, we can start from our database first approach. So the database first approach enables us to create an entity model from the existing database. So this approach helps us to reduce the amount of code that we need to write. So using the scaffold command, we can generate our entity models. So here I just provided the structure of the scaffold command. Okay, if you noted here, first we have this scaffold-DbContext. After that, we have a lot of parameters that we can discuss one by one. First, let me take one sample scaffold command. Okay, so if you noted here, so we have this scaffold database context. After that, we have our connection string, then our provider, the provider point of view, I'm using this SQL server. So finally, I'm going to generate my models in the folder of models. Okay, that's what I provided like output directories models. Okay, so now we can execute this command. So before that, I'm going to do one more customization. So if you are providing the connection string, these are the sensitive information. So if you directly providing from our command, so this is not the preferred option. So we can move this connection string into our app settings.json file. So in this application app settings, we can include this connection string. Then we have to provide our connection string name. So then we have to provide our value. Okay. Okay, this is done. Let me save this one. And now let me go to the command. So instead of this direct connection string, we can use our defined connection string from our app settings.json. For doing this one, I'm going to use the properties called connection. Okay. And then we have to provide this name. So let me take this name, connection string. Okay. So let me copy this command. So in this application, let me go to our package manager console. It's already opened. I'm going to execute this one. So the build is started. See now our database model is created. See the folder here. and also we can see our database context here. Okay, so let me go to my SQL server. So this land DB only I used. So here I have around 8 to 9 tables. So all the tables are included in our model section. So next what I'm going to explain. So instead of generating all the objects, I have to generate the specific table only. For the example, I need to generate the model for only this customer and employee. Okay. First, I'm going to remove this model here. Now let me go to my command. So after our output directory, I'm going to provide one more parameter is table. Okay. So here I'm going to include two tables. The first one is table customer. So comma table employee. So if you want to include some more tables, just use the comma separator. Then you have to include the table name. Okay. Now let me copy this command. I'm going to execute here once again. See now again our model is generated. So currently we have only two objects only. Even in our database context also we can see the same information. Okay. So this is the one scenario. And the next thing is, so currently I am not provided the database context name. Okay. So if required, we can provide the database context name also. And then we have generated all the files in the folder of models. So instead of that, we can generate our database context in one folder and other class files we can generate in this model folder. That also we can do. So let me delete the folder once again. And we can change our command here. So in this case, I'm going to remove this table option. Okay. I'm going to provide context. So context name is db first context. Okay. And then I'm going to include the folder. So context directory. For generating our models, I'm going to use repos/models. Okay. So now our command is ready. Let me execute this one. Okay, see now again our folder is generated. The main folder is repos. So if you see here, so inside the repos we can see this database context file. So in this database context file we can see all the objects. Then in the folder of models, so all the individual models was there. Okay. And the next thing is, so currently I just opened one of the model file. So we have the properties, right? So here we can include the data annotations also. So if you want to include this data annotation, you at the end you have to provide this data annotations. Okay. So let me copy the same command. Now I'm not going to remove this model. So here after we can have these models because the structure is fine. So the build is started. See, we are getting the error. So already we have this file. Okay. So for all the models, we already have the files. So again, I'm trying to generate the models with the data annotations. It is throwing this error. For resolving this error, we have to include the flag of force. Okay. So in this command, I'm going to include force, or else we can provide the short name is F. Okay. So let me execute this command. See now, it is working fine. Let me check my models. See, I just taken. So the table category and key is included. The similar way, this table employee. So key, column, and the length. So all the data annotation related properties are gets included. Okay. And the very important thing is we have to update our database model, right? So let me take this table user. I'm going to include one more column. So now we have new columns in our table. So I'm going to refresh our databases. Okay. For the refreshing purpose, we can execute the same command. So if you are including this force, so automatically it will recreate all of our models. Okay. So let me copy this one. I'm going to execute the same command. Okay, it's almost going to complete. Yeah, it's fine. Now let me go to our table user model. So see, the column of country is included. The same way, I'm going to remove this column. Okay. Again, we can do the same thing only. So let me copy this one. Okay, the build is completed. Again, I'm going to open this one. See, so we have up to this is active. The country column is got removed. Okay. Okay, we almost done. So in this database first approach, scaffold commands are doing the wonderful role here. If you clearly understand these commands, then it will be very easy for you. Okay. So let me provide some short summary. So as I mentioned, the first one is connection used for provide the connection string. So even in our command also we can see this connection string. And the second one is provider. So in our example, we have used this Microsoft.EntityFrameworkCore.SqlServer as our provider. And the output directory generate the model in specific folder. So we have generated our models in the folder of models. So inside the repos folder. And the third one is context, provide the name of database context. So in our last example, we have provided our database context name. And the same way for generating our database context in the particular folder, we have to use this context directory and this table. So generate the model for specific tables. So instead of generating model for all the tables, so if you want to generate for some required tables, then we have to use this option. For the data annotation, we have to use this one. The finally only forcefully. So you have the created database context, you are trying to modify the existing file, then you have to go with force. So I recommend for force for every time. So whenever you have the database changes, so you have to execute the command with the force, it's automatically recreate your model. So now we can check the connections, whether it is working or not. So for doing this one, I'm going to create one controller here. Maybe we can create one empty controller. So I'm going to provide the name is customer. Okay. Okay, our controller is ready. Now let me go to our database context. Okay, if you noted here, we are included this connection string. It's not required because we are going to include this in our dependency injection. Let me go to our program.cs file. Let me register my database context here. So our database context name is db first context. Okay. Next we can use this lambda expressions. So option dot use SQL server. So here we have to provide our connection string name. So we can get from our configuration side. So builder.configuration get connection string of. So the connection string name we can get from our app settings.json. Okay. Next I'm going to inject this database context in our controller. So first I'm going to create one constructor. Okay, it's fine. So let me inject here. Okay, this is done. Next, let me create one function here. So now I'm going to run this application. We can verify whether we are able to fetch the data. Okay, our getAll method is working fine. It is returning some data. That means our connectivity, everything is good only. So using the same manner, we can create the separate action methods for our CRUD operations. So that I will cover in the separate video. So this video, my primary intention is explaining this entity framework core with the different types of approaches. So the first one is database first approach. So we are almost good. Now let me move on code first approach. So if you have the created data model, then you have to go with this code first approach. So that's what I have mentioned here. The code first approach enables us to create the model and their relations using classes. Then it is creating the database from these classes. Okay. And then I have listed out all the steps for this code first approach. Then we have to go one by one. So the first thing is I'm going to create one separate application. So the steps are same only. It's not going to take much time. Web API. Project name is code first. Okay, our application is ready. So in this code first approach, the first thing is we have to create our data model. So in this application, I'm going to create one folder first, model. Then I'm going to create one CS file for the data model. I'm going to provide the name is product. Okay. Here I'm going to declare the properties. Here the first field is ID. The similar way I'm going to declare two more fields. The second one is name, then price. So this is the very basic one. Okay. So now our model is ready. Next, we have to install the package. So in this case, we have to install only this Microsoft Entity Framework Core.Design only. Okay, the installation gets completed. So the next thing is I'm going to create one controller here. Web API controller with actions using Entity Framework. Here we can choose this product model. At the database context, we don't have anything. So let me create one. Okay, the suggestion is saying code first context. Yeah, we can use the thing. And our controller name is products controller. Let me add this one. So now it is installing this Microsoft Entity Framework Core.Tools, and also it will install the SQL Server also. Okay, it's added. Okay, our control is created with the CRUD operations. See this HTTP, delete, post, put, everything was there. And also in our app setting.json, so the connection string is included. And in our program.cs file, the dependency injection related codes also added. Okay. Now our next thing is we have to execute this add migration command. Okay, so it will generate the migration file for us. So let me copy this command. So in our package manager console, let me go to the tools, then you get package manager console. Okay, I'm going to provide the name for this file. Okay, it is generated the migration file. See the name, and here we can see the items for the product. We have the columns ID, name, tries. So the next thing is using this migration file, we can generate our database. For doing this one, we have one command is called update database. Let me execute this one. Okay, this is completed. See, so it's executed this command. So it's created on table. So currently we don't have any data. That's what it's not included anything. So if you want to see the database, okay. So in this connection string, we can see like a local DB, okay. So just go to this view in our Visual Studio. We have this SQL Server Object Explorer. So in this SQL Server side, we can see the same thing, MySQL local DB. So in this database section, code first.data. So that's what we have provided. So in case if you want to create in the different names, that also it's possible from here. So let me change this one. I'm going to provide test_db, okay. But I'm using the same server. I just changed this database name only. So let me save this one. So the steps are same only. First we have to generate our migration file. Okay, the file is generated. Now let me update our database. Okay, actually it should be update database. Okay, see the migration is completed. I'm going to refresh this one. See now this test DB is included. So inside that, in this table section, we can see our product table. Okay, so if you want to check the data, you have to give view data. Currently there is no data. So what I'm going to do, so anyway we have this CRUD operations. So let me run this application. We can insert some data here. ID1. Okay, the identity insert of. So this is the identity column. Okay. Okay, see now the first record is created. So we have two records. So let me execute this get all function. See now two records. So even though we can check from our databases also. Let me go to the SQL Server once again. I'm going to click this view data. See now currently we have these two records. So actually I have to include manually also. So bar 50. Let me save this one. I'm going to execute our API. See now it is returning three more data. So this is all about using these local databases. Now what I'm going to do, instead of this local database server, I'm going to use my SQL Server. Okay. The step is very simple. You just go to your connection string. So instead of this server, you have to provide your server name. Okay, I just changing my server name first. And then we have this database, it's fine. Because I have the database, test.db. Okay. So currently there is no tables are added. And this tested connection and other things are fine only. So let me save this one. I'm going to generate the migration file once again. So the name I'm going to provide init2. Okay. Okay, this is fine. Next, I'm going to update our database. Okay, we are getting the login process. We are getting some issue. For resolving this error, so in your connection string, you have to include one more property. Okay. Trust server certificate equal to true. So let me save this one. I'm going to update the database once again. Okay, now it's completed. We can check from our SQL server. I'm going to refresh this one. See, so there are two tables are included. First one for the entity framework migration history. So if you checked here, select top 1000 row. So the migration was happened. Then in our table, so our table also created with the same structure. We have these three columns. Okay, so it's working fine. So here after, if you are including one more new columns, the steps is very simple. I'm just added is active. Okay, I'm going to save this one. So for any changes in our data model, you have to generate the new migration file. Okay, some spelling mistake. Right. Okay, the file is generated. So in this file, we can see the new column is included, is active, and then I'm going to execute our update database. Okay, it's completed. Now we can check in our SQL server. So three columns, I'm going to refresh this one. So see, our is active column also included. So this is for adding the column the same way. So if for the removing column also, it will work in the same manner only. So now we are almost in the end of the video. So I clearly explained what is Entity Framework Core and this database first approach and code first approach. So based on your requirement, you have to choose the approaches. So finally, let me provide some detail about this Entity Framework Core 7.0. So basically, this Entity Framework Core 7.0 can support for .NET 6 and .NET 7. So anyway, we are using the latest version both side, so then it's fine. And this 7.0 having very good performance comparing to 6.0. It is 4 times faster while doing the save changes and the save changes asynchronous. And we have the options like execute update and execute delete. So for doing the bulk updates, and also we can insert the multiple rows. So these are the new features are included in this Entity Framework Core 7.0. So still if you have any doubts or clarification, please post in the comment box, and also please don't forget to subscribe my channel. Thank you. Thanks for watching.